Hello everybody, and we're coming to you live from Boat Lagoon in Phuket from Dean and DeLuca. And for the very, very first time today, it's not just me here, but we've actually got our first guest. So no matter whatever happens, you're always going to be my very, very first live guest on Tim Newton today.
Thank you.
Be that good or bad. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Ivan.
Any which way, I became quite, indifferent to that.
Yes. So it's Ivan. Well, tell me what you want.
Just call me Ivan.
Ivan, there you go. Ivan Melnikov. And he's a resident here in Phuket. Probably known you about 6 or 7 years?
Something like that. Shall be even, okay, give it 7.5.
Well, yeah. I know I first met you when I started the radio station, which was called The Tiger, which eventually became a whole lot of other things. But Ivan, I've always called you Ivan, whatever, was always, you're one of my first guests on the radio show as well.
Really? I didn't know that.
I had different guests each day. I had Max and Sue, and we had Abel, and we had yourself. So anyway, quite interesting, all the perspectives there. So I thought it was interesting. I'll just make sure you can hear us, by the way. So people will tell us if they can't hear us. You will get some extra background noise today because we're wearing these little lapel mics. But I thought it would be interesting. So what you need to do there, by the way, is if you click that, just sorting out all the technology, it's going to run that down, then you'll see yourself come up. So is skip ads, and there you are, okay. You see, look at that. Seeing yourself about 10 seconds later. That all you're going to do now is look at yourself all day, isn't it? So I thought it would be interesting, given what's happening geopolitically. We know that there is a war between Russia and Ukraine following the invasion of Russia back on February the 28th. So we don't really want to talk too much about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing or any of the geopolitical issues. What I thought was interesting was the fact that we have got a real Russian person here with a perspective and with loved ones in Russia, that we can get a bit of a perspective of what's actually happening on the ground, both in Russia and internationally. And I thought that you might have some questions you'd like to throw to Ivan as well. So firstly, can I ask you, just what is your, as a Russian person, your feelings about Russia invading Ukraine?
First of all, when you said 28, I think I had a correction in my head, like a voice saying, was it 24th? I think it was 24th.
Okay.
So since February...
I'm often wrong.
Since February 24th, it's such a great sadness, and I was thinking about this, which is ultimate, and it's not getting easier. So I think for me, right, I'm gonna be very subjective and quite emotional. For me, I'm crying almost every day. Just this or that moment, I'm just falling apart because it's not fitting into the picture of the world, into the picture of my values. And luckily all my family on the same page, so we do not support this, we hate this whole thing happening. But it's shocking that there is no visible end to this.
So have you been back to Russia since the invasion?
I was. Actually, I went to Russia in August in order to sell some of my assets in Russia, the properties, because I felt like the time is here to cut relationships with the country for me. And it was a very interesting experience because it was so good in a way. Because I felt that, it was August, the places I'm coming from is Urals, close to Siberia, so it's very cold during like 9 months, 8 months a year, and people have been waiting for the summertime to get dressed, go to coffee places, and I was shocked because people have been living just normal life in August, going to terraces, drinking hot latte with lavender and stuff, and it felt like it's the beauty of life, nothing's going on.
So is it a conversation that Russian people would have every day? Is it something that they jump on to the news sources and find out what's going on?
You mean in Russia?
In Russia, yes.
As I felt, because I was like a tourist in Russia for a month, right? People do not talk about this at all. So they avoid this because they kind of feel helpless. They feel that they have no influence to that. and they need to save themselves, not to lose jobs for the wrong statements, made in Facebook or Instagram, which are banned in Russia officially, but still used. So people pretend that nothing is going on. But what has changed a lot in September, when all this mobilization started, and people started to be called to go to the front line, to the war to Ukraine, people just realized maybe for the first time since February that it's real, it's happening, and that now they are
happening to them.
It's happening to them.
So, were you in fear of being drafted into the Russian army? I mean, you're a young, healthy male, so...
Right. There are some special groups, health, they analyze you, the condition of your health. And I know that I shouldn't be called, but the reality is that there are no rules in Russia, so whatever is advertised, officially said, it's fake, right? So they do the different things from the next day or the same moment.
Yep.
So maybe I have already been called. I say it this way because I've told my mother, do not sign anything. I'm registered with the same address my mother lives.
If you get any letters, just drop them in the rubbish bin.
Just don't touch those.
Right.
Say you don't talk to me, you don't know me, we are in conflict for many years. And the main thing, don't tell me that it happened. So I'm not informed, honestly, if I had a letter.
All right, so let's have a talk about, we're aware that there are many, many Russian people coming to Thailand at the moment.
Yeah.
And just to sort of put it into perspective, there's double the amount of Russian visitors arriving per day to the next highest number of people that are arriving. That's pretty much the same in most of the international ports, of course not through land borders. But so a lot of people are wondering, are these people genuine tourists just coming here for 2 weeks of sunshine and temple visits and whatever else you do in Thailand? Or are some of these people that could be perhaps wealthy Russians just getting out of Russia at the moment, or even some of them young males who don't want to be recruited? What's your perspective about these people arriving at the moment in Thailand?
My answer is a bit of everything. Let me explain to you wider. For example, the way I meet people in Phuket, especially Russians, it's my clients who are looking to buy properties, right? Or who are requesting to rent properties. So of course, in that segment of people arriving to Phuket, I see a lot of families coming in. So they are wealthy business owners from Russia who had a lot of hopes for developing business and growing it up, and they just realized they need to escape themselves. So I feel it works like the males are more rigid in Russia. They keep thinking like, oh, it's not gonna happen to me. No, it's fine. They're gonna call everybody, not me. And there are the wives saying like, hey, wow, I'm not gonna wait for the moment it happens. We pack and we go. So I meet a lot of families with children.
I'd say that as well. I think there have been a lot of families coming into Russian families. It's interesting that you say that some of the urge to do that might come from the mum rather than the dad.
Yeah, I mean, because I've met, let's say, as I've told you, I meet quite a lot of families with children. I also met recently one guy who told me, I didn't really want to go to Bangkok, just my mother and my sister been worrying too much, so they got me a ticket and sent me here. And I'm like, what's your plan? For how long do you plan to stay here? I don't know, I'm just floating around for a couple of weeks and I decided where else to go. But there is no intention to go back to Russia for him.
Would that be something on the mind of a lot of the visitors at the moment, that they're coming to Thailand and they get automatic 45 days stamped into their passport and they can extend that for another 30 days. I suppose what's going to happen after that, if they want to stay in Thailand, is going to be an issue. Or these people are really just happy to go to the next place that's going to stamp them in for another 45 days or 90 days.
I don't think that Thailand is such a hub where people are coming just for 30 days to keep moving, because it's already quite far from Russia.
Yes.
So as I feel there is a big intention to be in Thailand, and we can see that, let's say, language schools, they already stop accepting applications for educational visas because they don't have quota enough. So people are trying to make long-term visa at any possible cost to stay here.
Okay, well that's interesting. So the ED visa has always been used as a bit of a backstop for internationals that wanted to stay here long term. I know that a lot of the immigration departments have sort of cracked down on that over recent years.
Correct.
But you're saying that a lot of your Russian friends that are coming here are actually trying to get ED visas.
Yeah, because
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
I mean, this is the first way for them to stay here longer.
Yep.
Because, most of them, they're renting villas and apartments for 1 year because they understand it's not going to end up soon, right? They want to stay here. They came with children, so you can't even send your children to international schools. It's all fully booked, right?
Yeah.
So they have an intention to stay. They have to find the legal way to stay. That's why they do this.
By the way, this is TNT. This is Ivan Melnikov, and we're talking to Ivan about his impressions of the people from Russia coming to here. If you do have a question to Ivan, he's happy to answer anything, and if he doesn't want to answer, we'll probably get up and
Just
leave.
let you know.
Yeah, or he'll let us know. Thank you to Blue Steel. Thank you very much for your very kind donation. That was very, very kind and unexpected. Let's see, we've got a few people here. We've got Gio, Paul Henry, Stefan. Nong Wu So said, how do Russian people afford to come here, though their money was worth nothing now? So this is the ruble to Thai baht thing. So they're saying the ruble is not worth anything. That's not the way I understand it.
Funnily enough, it's been a very interesting story happening since February. When the war has just started, the ruble fell like twice.
Yes.
So in a moment, for $1, you had to pay 150 rubles. Then, funny enough, all this war works super fine for the Russian government because now the ruble is super strong for the last several months, So people can buy a lot of dollars. They can still legally send dollars out of Russia to their foreign accounts, which is not banned by Russian banks.
You're talking about US dollars?
Yes, US dollars.
Right.
There are still not many banks, but around 5-6 banks which send the USD transfer by SWIFTs. So it's not a problem for people to get out of Russia when they have money. And ruble is very strong.
Yes. A question here from Richard saying, where are we? Albert, why Thailand over other Southeast Asian countries? So if you're a Russian family, you think, we've got to get out of here. Why are they coming to Thailand?
First of all, I think that's an experience of being to Thailand before. And if they have been traveling that far to South Asia, they mostly been coming to Thailand and to Phuket specifically because it's very well developed. And now, getting back to the previous question, are they tourists? The majority of people coming here, they plan to stay for a long time. They come in with children, so they need infrastructure, kindergartens, schools, and you either get it in Bangkok or in Phuket. So that's why Thailand, that's why Phuket, because I don't think Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam are that well developed or that well known by Russians before.
Right. Because Russian visitors were very popular in Thailand.
Absolutely.
Before
Absolutely.
all this happened. Thank you very much to Scott D. Scott is one of our regulars. I think he's from Chicago, although he was traveling for Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving, that's not a thing in Russia, is it?
No, I've heard it's been recent celebration, right? Because my sister celebrates.
It was Thursday or Friday.
Yeah, my sister
don't
is married to an American guy, so they celebrate all of those.
Yes.
But me personally, I don't know what it is.
It's something to do with Indian people, not people from India. Anyway, I'm not going to get into it because I don't know. I know there's turkeys involved.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if there's roast turkey, I'm in. Tim, an important question would be, this is from GOH,
Yeah.
do they plan on going back and kicking out the current government? So
Okay.
they're suggesting that you should go back and kick out Vladimir Putin. You've got all that under control?
That's a very popular conversation.
Really?
And it's connected to this collective guilt theory and collective responsibility, right? Which I stand against it. I think that it's just not honest of sitting in your comfortable place,
Yes.
texting and telling what other people should do without knowing the exact circumstances people are in. So I was putting just this on the table and asking people who asked me, Ivan, why aren't people going on the streets? I know, and I reverted back with asking, do you know the law in Russia that you can go twice If you go a third time for these public demonstrations, protests,
yep.
right, you can get imprisoned
Right.
for a sensitive amount of years. Why do you demand those people to risk their safety? It's just not honest. I'm sorry.
Ivan, if Russians were able to have a free and fair election, and there was a good opposition, would the current Russian president get back into power? If it was a free and fair election?
Unfortunately, I think that the majority of people do really vote for him.
Really?
That's my big sadness, because there are several big cities in Russia, and the big cities usually do not vote for him because the level of education in big cities is higher. And I don't want to depreciate all the people living in Russia, but a lot of people just watching official TV channels because they do not have any other source of information.
Yes.
And they really vote for Mr. Putin for many years, and that's very sad.
A question here from Mark. Are you experiencing any anti-Russian comments in your day-to-day life? So do people come up and go, "You're from Russia, I don't like you"?
No, first of all, the answer is not at all. No. It's either a function of me, I'm selecting the people I hang around with properly, and you can tell me such a thing one time, then I will give you a red flag, second red flag, and you're gone from my bubble, right? So I just don't interact with these people. In the internet, not as well, no.
Now we should note that Ivan is a long-term resident here in Phuket. He's been working in real estate.
Correct.
Well, tell us about your real estate journey, because it's interesting that you...
That's actually how we met with you.
That's how we met, yes.
It was before the radio, actually. I'm doing real estate, particularly selling real estate for around 7.5 years or 8 years, roughly. I was working for the developer, and this is where you came to make an ad for us.
That's right.
Then I was working for a couple big and small companies, and finally I'm just self-employed, which makes me very happy. I'm selling villas and condos. That's why I meet all of these people who come here and looking to buy properties. This is a good time for the market. People are queuing up.
Yes.
You can finally say, okay, we have this one, this one, this one. You buy it or you don't. I don't have a lot of time for this. You can be bitchy, but that's the reality.
Okay. Joseph Kefart says Russians really have no idea what's really going on. Is that true? Is the way that Russians are getting their news giving them a slanted view of what's going on?
For many Russians, that's true. It's like a function. They do not try to find an access to different kind of information. They get what they're fed with, information-wise. And, I think they don't even try because psychologically-wise, if they face their reality, they will have no idea how to keep going, how to keep moving, because they lose identity, they lose safety, and they lose the future as well. But, I'm talking about this quite a lot with my colleagues because I'm getting my master's degree in psychology, and psychologists say that, of course, for those people who realize the tragedy now, for those Russian people who realize it's a big tragedy now, it will be more easy to cope up with tragic reality after, because they already know what's going on. They have more resources to get ready for it. A lot of people don't know what's going on, I agree, and it's going to be a great shock for them when the reality will kind of finally knock the door and say, here, this is what happened.
So if you're in Russia at the moment and are getting together to have a coffee at your local Russian Starbucks, or do you have Starbucks?
No, not any longer. No H&M, no Zara, no Starbucks, no IKEA.
They've all gone.
Yeah, they're all gone.
Okay. So if you get together in whatever your local Russian cafe is called, is this a conversation that you would have every day? Is it something that Russian people are talking about, or are some of them just trying to get on with their lives?
Interesting question. That depends on the company. If you feel that you're in company with the same values, right? So your level of conversation will be like, okay, what another shit happened? How's it going on? What this bloody Vladimir did again, right? Then you can talk about this because you have the same values. If you are at risk of having somebody in the company who has a different perspective, who is a Putin supporter, well, first of all, my question, why would you be in the same company? Because for me, I would not sit at the same table with this person. I'm that strict.
Okay.
But rather than that, people are gonna avoid this conversation.
Do you have some Ukrainian friends in
my
Thailand?
In my life and in Thailand, I do have one Ukrainian friend, yeah, lady.
And you've spoken about this issue?
You know,
Or is it foreboding? We don't go there.
we have been in touch all the time because we've been drinking coffee together, having barbecue. So yeah, we are in touch. It's not a demarcation line for us.
Nongwa So says, how is the unemployment rate in Russia? So I suppose generally, if we could build on that question, how is the economy in Russia, the day-to-day economy? Are people going to stores and products aren't available, or are the streets not being cleaned and the rubbish not being emptied? How is life in Russia at the moment?
It's interesting. If you read official numbers, the unemployment official rate is very low. So it's like the ruble is strong, unemployment at a very low level. We're all wealthy, and the Europe is freezing because it do not have any like heat power and stuff. The reality is that you come to the grocery shop and you have to choose from a much more limited amount of products. The prices went up, you know. Fuck's sake, I went to Russia in August, and I have not been to Russia for many years. So I take
Did you say for fuck's sake?
Yeah.
In
Sorry.
Russian? No, that's
we
okay.
have an
I just
expression
wanted
like
to
that.
know if that's exactly what you said.
No,
Thank
I'm
you.
talking to myself in English on many occasions. That's the thing.
Okay.
So I went to the shop and I got the juice and ice cream and a cake, something to make myself happy.
Right.
And I was expecting something to pay, and it was like double, triple the price. And I was holding my card like Whoopi Goldberg in that movie, like she's not getting the cashier check.
Oh,
I was
yes.
like, I'm not paying that much for this. And then I told this to my friend who was hosting me, and she said, yeah, the prices went up like double, triple for some products. It's really expensive to live in Russia.
So you're here on a full, just a normal non-B or
Yeah.
company visa. So Ivan's here. Ivan is here long term. Thanksgiving Day, this is Sharon who's giving us a bit of education, is when Americans give thanks for what we have, we usually express this with huge food spread. Turkey is the star of the meal, of course. Everyone eats and celebrates differently.
Yeah, if I can reply to Sharon, what I like about American celebrations, no matter what exactly it is, that's always about unity. There's a lot of like family gatherings, and especially these days, people need support. They need to meet people and talk.
Yeah.
And that's what it is about.
Just to mention that next week, today, Ivan is our very, very first live co-host on our Saturday morning programs. I've done this by myself, well, not myself, me and the viewers since day one. But next week we've got an ophthalmologist.
All
What do
right.
ophthalmologists do?
They check the eyes. or
That's right.
something.
He's an eye
Yeah.
doctor.
Yeah.
So he's going to be our guest next week, a local Thai and a very experienced and very pleasant gentleman who's going to be talking. He operated on my eyes a couple of years ago, and I know quite a few of you are interested in that operation. So we'll be talking about that next week. How are your eyes?
I've just gotten new glasses 2 days ago. I
Okay,
love
you can't
them.
read that without your glasses.
That's what helps me to read the questions actually.
GOH.
Right.
More, what would be or is the biggest difference that you found out you were being either lied to or found was not true? In other words, are things that you read in the Russian media, do you sort of have to filter it through your bullshit detector?
That depends what particular media you read. There are alternative medias, for example, like Medusa, which is not located in Russia and it's kind of banned in Russia. But I'm getting my news feed from them, right? So I read the real news, and I never read the propaganda news. So I have no clue what is said in propaganda because I don't have time to spend for it.
GOH, Tim, I'm 58 and having a bit of trouble seeing. I'm so excited about next week. They've forgotten about you already.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, the operation we're talking about specifically is the one that I had, but he's an ophthalmologist, so he can talk about all different levels of eye health. So that's next week. She is the most popular co-host, Dana. Oh, Dina, they're talking about my cat.
All right.
Dina, do you still have your dogs?
I have two lovely doggies.
The
I
little
love them.
tiny little... My cats would eat them in one bite.
Okay, yeah, I think so because my dog is so tiny, but one of those she likes to eat, so she's quite puffy.
Smoke from 7 offices. Smoke from 7 orifices, sorry. Some of them have very weird names.
It's
Question, did perestroika come up in conversation when you lived in Russia, or did the people think it was bad or good for Russians? Perestroika, this was
80th.
the 1980s. It was sort of open
Right.
conversation.
Yeah.
Can you describe perestroika for those people that, like me, may not be able to remember back that far?
I was born at the end of perestroika, and unfortunately I have to admit I don't know much about Russian history.
But what does perestroika mean?
Perestroika. Okay, my feel is that it's when you was not allowed to talk about anything before. It was all really controlled by communists.
Right.
And it kind of became lightened, the restrictions. You
Right.
started to speak out your gut and what you think. And it's a time, people romanticize the time like a time of freedom to express yourself and stuff. Like the very beginning of expression which blasted in the 90s.
A lot of people, when they talk about Russian people with me, they say, I mean, I get these typecasts all the time in the conversations. You know, all Chinese are bad because of the Chinese Communist Party. All Russians are bad because
yeah.
of Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
Why don't Russian people smile? Well, obviously they do smile. But this is one of these sort of typecasts that people use.
I get an answer like a joke just to end up this conversation. If I would love to, I would say because it's very cold in Russia, so we try to save the warmth inside. When you smile, it becomes colder inside of your body. Okay? But the reality is,
That doesn't sound like a good excuse.
the reality is, I feel that brutality is a must-have for Russians, especially for Russian men, if we're talking about guys, because toxic masculinity is a very widespread in Russia.
Toxic masculinity.
Right. So you have to be brutal. You're not supposed to have emotions or to demonstrate your emotions. You have to be the achiever, the fighter. So very patriarchal patriarchal vision of life.
Yes.
So smiling, as I feel, it might be considered to be a weakness sometimes, or
Okay.
like if I smile to you and you're Russian, you might be thinking I'm smiling at you. There is something wrong with your hair or something. So I'm like,
Not a lot of people say that to me.
I love it. I love your sense of humor.
Sure.
So if I may end up this sentence, when I was in Russia, I noticed that I stopped smiling because nobody's smiling around, and you copy paste.
Someone here sort of digging in deeper. World Traveller 198. We're both sort of squinting a bit here because we've got bright lights streaming in. So explain, what is masculinity that is not toxic? Well, you can
Okay.
have masculinity, which is
Yeah.
basically just being... We're getting into deep conversation here.
I'm
But toxic masculinity is when they sort of take it the next step and it becomes sort of overly aggressive and...
Yeah. When you have to demonstrate that you are such a man, like an alpha man. If you Google that in America, it's called man box culture. So that you have to, to finance your family, to be the strong basement of your family. And then it leads to a very interesting fact that you are not allowed to be weak, to be sad, to cry, but all of these emotions are absolutely normal, no matter if you're a woman or a man. And then that's why actually men have more psychological troubles compared to women sometimes, because they are banned from fully expressing emotions, especially emotions of being weak, vulnerable, not knowing what to do with life. So normal masculinity is being strong when you have a power for, when you have energy for, and it's being weak when you feel lost and sad. This is what is normal masculinity to me.
So if you have any other questions that you would like to direct to Ivan, you're more than welcome to. You have him sitting here, he's your guest. I just wanted to very quickly mention there's been a lot of discussion over the past 2 or 3 weeks. One of the main news stories has been this cannabis bill. It's all right, we're not going to be lighting up or anything. But just a couple of days ago, there was some changes introduced which have become law straight away. One of them was that if you buy cannabis in one of these new retail shops, popping up all over the place, that you can buy the cannabis there, but you can't smoke it there. You have to take it home or have to leave the shop anyway. So that's one of the new laws. You also can't sell it online or anything like that. Have we ruined one of your businesses or no?
No.
Not at all, okay. You're just into real estate.
Yeah.
So tell us about the real estate situation in Phuket. I suppose this would sort of map out across Thailand generally, but you work in Phuket. How is the real estate property industry in Phuket at the moment?
I would describe it as going rapidly from zero to hero because COVID was killing the property market. I mean, we have been badly influenced. Amount of transactions been low, amount of inquiries been much lower, and now like people are really literally queuing for the good properties. And I've seen a lot of properties which has been sitting on the market for years. Sometimes they've been sold. So now you're absolutely honest with the clients when you say, what is your budget? They tell you, you're like, oh, you can't expect this and this, but you don't even create your hopes for that kind of product because prices went up, availability is not enormous. So, you know, people are queuing for the properties.
So you think across the board that it's turned from, excuse me, a buyer's market into a seller's market?
It is absolutely the seller's market, yes. And it's been a buyer's market for several years before.
Of course,
for
yeah.
Quite a lot of years.
So what sort of properties are selling at the moment? That's my first question. The second question would be, what sort of properties are Russian buyers looking for at the moment? But generally, what sort of properties are selling the most?
Mostly people are looking for 3-bedroom villas. Well, sometimes 2, but mostly 3 because they have 2 kids at average. With some land plots, and we're looking at the prices. Well, the comfortable budget to start with these days is around $400,000 and up.
$400,000. How many baht is that?
Okay, in baht is like 15 million baht and up.
Whoa!
You do not have a lot of choice with 15 million baht these days.
If I want to buy a 20-year-old 2-bedroom pool villa in Chalong.
This is what I don't sell.
Oh.
Yeah,
Well, that beneath you, is it?
No, I do not depreciate the kind of property you've described, but it also, at some point, you can afford yourself to understand what part of the market you want to service. And I service the northern part of the island, Bang Tao, Laguna Pasak area,
Okay.
with the beautiful villas. We have a lot of interest in that. That's why my answer is like that.
From Shano Traveller, which nationalities are leading the purchasing power of the condo market in Phuket?
Condo market, I think it's the market in general, condo and villas, they are the Russians these days. Russians buying like crazy. Absolutely. They're just buying and buying.
Are they paying cash?
Well, we have to be the cash buyers. Being
Isn't there a
foreigners.
problem getting money out of Russia at the moment? How are they transferring money from Russia to Thailand?
So I've told you there are
They have ways.
There are still several banks which can do the SWIFT transfer. So no problem to buy dollars in Russia. I mean, not the cash dollars, but how you call electronic dollars, I would call them.
Yep.
Which are just written on your account, and no problem to transfer that to Thailand. With the only note, you shall be buying from somebody who is not a member of enemy country. So you can't buy directly from the British seller, from German seller, whatever, because they are from Europe. You can buy from Russian seller. You can buy from Thai developer.
Ah, interesting.
We have the cases when it's a joint development, Thai, and there is a foreigner as a
Okay.
director.
Yes.
The bank banned the transfer, saying there is an enemy country.
So there are some problems for Russian buyers, but you've already sorted out the workarounds.
I mean, there are ways to do with cryptocurrencies as well, like, you know.
Questions coming in. Smoke from 7 Orifices again. Question: why is vodka that was brewed in Russia far better than vodka brewed in other countries?
I'm totally the wrong person, I'm sorry. I don't like vodka. I'm drinking Baileys, that's it.
That's a bit like me saying I don't like Vegemite. You can't possibly be Australian.
Okay.
Ivan, do you have a favourite type of dance music, disco or techno?
Here we go. Okay.
Ivan's a singer, by the way.
A little bit. When people ask about my religion, it's gonna be a joke, no offense to anybody. I say that I'm a member of Britney Spears Church, so I definitely love Britney. I'm a big fan of Kylie Minogue disco era, which he represented during COVID. Love it.
Kylie's from Australia.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving dinner at Crossroads Diner in Bangkok is good. Paul, you should have told us that a few days ago, probably a bit late now. Given
I
that
was in
Thanksgiving-
Bangkok, actually.
You were in Bangkok,
Yeah.
but you didn't celebrate Thanksgiving.
No, I was applying for a passport.
Norman asks, do you have connections in Russia that funnel buyers to you? In other words, do you have people saying, if you're going to Phuket, contact Ivan because he knows?
That's exactly
What's
my
going on?
source of clients. So I'm not making advertisement. If you go to my social media, you find more information about Britney Spears again rather than properties. So people hand me over, like, here is Ivan, and that's how it works.
So this is an interesting question from Alan BC, and hello everyone, this is TNT Live. Our guest is Ivan Melnikov, who's a real estate agent here in Phuket of some 7 or 8 years, and I just thought it was interesting to get a normal Russian person off the street just with his impressions of what's going
That's
on.
how we're called these days, right?
What is the future for Russia with people like you turning their back on the country and the huge brain drain? It's not a criticism,
Yeah.
saying so young Russian people, they're leaving the country, they've had enough,
Yeah.
and this is a brain drain for
Absolutely.
the country. Where does that leave Russia 10 years from now?
We're talking about this with my sister who's not living in Russia for many years. You know, as I say, myself personally, I have left Russia long before it became needed, long before it became a necessity. And of course, Russia will be lacking professionals, IT professionals and stuff that will create opportunity for people who stay inside of Russia. Right, they will be in demand because it will be a lack of professionals, and you know, I think Russian culture will be developing because all of the people who create art or journalists, they have migrated, they live in Europe and stuff. The question who's gonna benefit from this? Probably not Russian economy, and it's very sad for the Russian government. Should be, but they don't seem to be sad at all.
This is from Richard Townsend. Hi, Richard. Is the Russian embassy in Bangkok still running as normal?
I have been there 2 days ago.
Oh, okay. There you go.
So it was very interesting experience for me. So I came to apply for additional passport because it's very important to have a passport as long as it works, right? And I saw a very helpful attitude from the women working in the embassy because there is a huge problem. People are queuing for several months trying to get an appointment to apply for passport because the passport is expiring, right? They're gonna be deported to Russia, which they're scared of because if they get deported, they can be called to army and stuff. And they have no way to make an appointment. So some of them coming straight to the embassy and they almost crying saying, listen, I've tried to go the legal way, but you're not picking up the phone. I can't get an appointment. What should I do? And those ladies, I don't think they do it openly, but they sometimes say where you came from. And the person said, I flew all the way from Samui. You know, it's expensive and time consuming, effort consuming. And they say, okay, fill in this paper, I'm getting you today. But they can't do it all the time because it's additional work for them, right? So I saw a lot of helpfulness in the embassy 2 days ago, which warmed my heart. So people trying to help, it's good.
Rusty Lid asks the question, would Russian weed shops have blunts with smaller blunts inside? I don't even know what that question means.
I don't know what it means really.
Is weed, cannabis, is it a thing in Russia? I mean, is it a popular pastime? People smoke
I think
weed?
there are a lot of people all around the world doing that, especially art people.
Well, I think you're probably art people.
I mean, if you're a rapper or something, I'm stereotyping, I'm sorry, but
I think you probably are.
yeah,
Is it freely? It's not legal in
it's
Russia.
not legal, no.
Okay, but it's a common pastime.
I think quite a lot of people still grow it and use it.
And that's what I keep on saying, no matter what the Thai government ends up passing as regards laws, people are still going to smoke it one way or the other. So I think we just need to be quite clear about that. Question from Scott D. I travelled to St. Petersburg, Russia, way back in 1994. Have you been there? Or where in Russia are you from? Joined the conversation late. So Scott, we haven't mentioned that.
Yeah.
So St. Petersburg.
It's a beautiful city. I love it.
What's the name of?
Leningrad.
Leningrad, that's right.
Correct,
But it's now
correct.
St. Petersburg.
It is still, you know how it works in Russia? For example, it's in Moscow and it's in Moscow region.
Right.
But for St. Petersburg, it's a St. Petersburg, but it's Leningrad region still.
Oh, okay.
Funny because it's been changing and they have not brought it back. St. Petersburg, this is, in my opinion, the most beautiful city in Russia. It feels like Europe, it looks like Europe. It's a center of cultural life, of all the musicians, not all, but majority of musicians.
Where is it in relation to Moscow?
It's next to Finland. You go north and northwest.
So it would be cold in the winter.
Yeah, it is cold. It's very windy. It's very rainy. It's like Londonish kind of weather. So, you know, a lot of people from St. Petersburg, they don't like it. But a lot of people, almost everybody who is not from St. Petersburg, they want to live in St. Petersburg because of the architecture.
Okay. And which part of Russia are you from? Was Scott's other question.
Yeah, I'm from Ural Mountains.
Central Russia?
So there is Siberia and there is Ural. They're like that.
Siberia and Ural.
Yeah.
Ural is mountains?
People say that. So
I've heard of the Ural Mountains.
Everybody heard of, me too. I never saw those. I was born in that region because you have to actually drive quite far up north to go into the mountains. So I'm from that place. I have never been to Ural Mountains.
So another question came through. This is from Michael Brown. Hi, Michael. What visas are all the Russian tourists on here in Phuket? Well, as I mentioned, and I'll start the question, you can finish it, that anybody from Russia can come in on visa exemption and get a 45-day visitor stamp in Thailand, and they can extend that for 1,900 baht for another 30 days, so a total of 75 days without having to apply for a visa. So that's how they would start, but after that, how are they going to stay here in Thailand?
They might apply for tourist visas. They are not a year long. As I'm aware, it's like 3 months or 6 months.
I think you can apply
like
for a tourist visa. I think you have to leave the country and apply for it.
Yeah.
And it would be 60 days, which you could extend for another 30. So that would give you another 90 days.
Yeah, which is a good time to decide if you're staying in Thailand, getting back to your question, whether they're going to move or they're going to stay, right? And after that, you can apply for some long-term visa, for example, educational visa, and that's what a lot of people do.
Okay. So the ED visas are problematic at the moment because it seems that a lot of the educational institutions are being flooded with inquiries.
Yes.
Some of them from Russia, and there is a certain quota, so that's a bit of a problem.
And the prices went up.
I think generally there's a problem for Thailand because it is open and accepting to Russian visitors, that it's sort of changed the tourism and the visitor dynamic so quickly.
Rapidly, absolutely.
It's taking Thailand a bit of time to sort of get their head around it, but we'll see what happens. How many Russians are in Thailand compared to normal? Oh, let me tell you that the number of Russians arriving every day is about a third of the total number of visitors arriving each day. So it's huge amount of Russian visitors at the moment.
But again, it's a high season, right? If we jump back 4 years ago, in a high season, we used to have that much of Russians all the time, but it's been a different portray of people arriving, right?
Well, there's also been a lot of the Western Europeans and Americans and English,
Chinese
and
tourists,
Australians, Chinese,
of
course. But at the moment, the Russians are by far the biggest proportion of arrivals every day.
I wanted to say Russians are dominating, but it sounds scary these days. You don't say those words.
No, we won't say that. Tony says, perestroika, policy or practice of restructuring or reforming the economic and political system, first proposed by Brezhnev in 1979 and actively promoted by Mikhail Gorbachev in the late 80s. People call me Mikhail Gorbachev at the moment because of the scar I have on my head, which is clearing. I had a skin cancer cut out, but it's recovering, so I'm looking less like Mikhail Gorbachev each day.
He has unfortunately passed away just a couple months ago.
Yes, so I've got a few more years left in me yet, but veil to Mikhail Gorbachev. Okay, so thank you, Tony. I was drinking due to the training. Thank you sounds the same process for Europeans. How many Russians are in Thailand compared to normal? I think we've answered that as well. Oh, here's one from Luke Manton. Ivan, are your clients exclusively Russian, or can you be contacted for general property inquiries? I could answer that, but I'll let Ivan do it for me.
I've had different eras of my real estate career. So at one moment when we met, actually, I used to have mostly English-speaking clients, and honestly, I felt more interested to work with English speakers. I enjoy talking English, and like I love it. After that, let's say in the recent time, 95% of my clients are Russians. Just because of the flow, you don't want to miss that part of the market right now.
Of course.
But I'm open for working with anybody who's speaking English or Russian. Absolutely.
How many Russians speak English, or what's the English proficiency generally in Russia?
Still very low, unfortunately. Especially, the younger generation speaks better English, of course. But the generation is arriving now. The fathers bringing the family. They have never had a necessity to learn English. They don't speak English at all, at most.
Okay. So, Nong I'll never be able to pronounce your name properly. This is Nong So. He messages us every week, and he's a regular listener, and I'm very, very grateful, but I'll never be able to say your name properly. So how do these people survive on these... Oh, it's disappeared. So how do these people survive on these visas, afford to stay that long, that farangs, that visit their girlfriends for 2 weeks? I'm trying to wade through all that. So these people that are coming, you are saying that a lot of them are moneyed Russians. They've got money to spend, and they're coming with cash in bags, and
we're seeing a lot of wealthy Russians arrive. The way they transfer the money is either having Thai bank accounts before and being able to transfer the money prior to arrival or during the stay here, or using cryptocurrency to transfer. I have no clue about that. Like, I have connections if I need to
don't start
to
talking
figure
about
out,
crypto.
but,
We're not.
I'm lost.
Yes.
In that. Or they bring cash in, but there is a limit of $10,000. So
yes, that's right. So you can't buy a 15 million baht condo with $10,000.
Yeah. Well, and you have to transfer from outside of Thailand legally.
Okay. How did Ivan become so fluent in English, and does he also speak Thai? This is from Ian. Hi, Ian.
Ian, I have a story for you about Thai first, okay? Because it's a short answer. Sometimes I'm driving with the clients and I'm running out of gasoline, and I stop at the gas station, and I can maintain A to Z conversation in Thai about buying gasoline, asking for like a receipt for my company name to put it into the expenses, and my clients look at me like, Ivan, you speak Thai? They don't know the thing that they've heard all of my Thai in one situation, so I don't speak Thai.
I'm exactly the same. Petrol and ordering food.
Coffee with sugar.
Yeah, I can do all that, but as soon as I walk out of the petrol station or the restaurant,
I'm lost. And if they
same.
revert to you with the wider sentence, you're like, yeah, that's what happens to me all the time.
And then the second question was, did you learn English?
I've been learning English in a separate school in Russia, but usually, your results may really vary. I think I've learned English from listening to jazz music. So when I was 18 years old,
music.
Yeah, I came across Ray Charles and Ella Fitzgerald. And then it was an era of listening to every possible jazz singers to me. And when you hear the way people sing, your pronunciation changes because it has to be more soft, more like singable, mellifluous, and that's why it changed.
You can say the word mellifluous, which most English-speaking people can't. I was watching an interview with a Korean band the other day, and the leader of the band, he was asked, how did you learn English? He said, I watched Friends. My mother bought me the DVD set, and she made me watch it first with the subtitles and then without the subtitles, and that's how we learnt English.
That's extremely popular trick in Russia too, because Friends are absolutely beloved TV series in Russia for many years.
So they'd all be sort of learning English with a New York accent.
Yeah, these days a lot of Russians, they're watching Netflix with subtitles and stuff, but Friends, this is a big era of watching it with subtitles and Russian subtitles and stuff.
Steve says, cheers to great content every week. Steve, Parramatta in New South Wales. Hi, Steve.
Thank you.
Parramatta is west of Sydney. I've been to Parramatta a few times. Is there a similar trick for learning Thai? So is there a Thai Friends you can watch to learn? I've tried watching Thai dramas. I've tried studying the squiggles. I've tried everything. I'm just stupid. So that's how I've resolved it.
That's about motivation, all right? You have to have interest to that.
Oh, I've got motivation. Of course I've got motivation, but I just can't figure it out.
Yeah.
I used to learn 3 words a day, but I'd
Yeah.
wake up the next morning, I'd forgotten them.
Yeah, same happens to
I'm
me.
just stupid.
Yeah.
You're not, but I am. Is Malaysia, in Malaysia you get 90 days. So Stan saying, is that as a Russian person, Stan? So I think I know Maldives, that you will get 90 days as a Russian, visa exemption. So there are some key places. Turkey's another one.
What you gonna be doing in Maldives for 90 days? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much swimming you can do, isn't there?
I mean, you can become a really good swimmer because there is nothing else purely to do.
Yeah. Turkey's very popular for Russian visitors.
It has.
And
yeah.
why is that?
Because it's much closer to go there. The tickets are much cheaper. The price of living there is lower compared to Thailand. And I think, there has always been 3 major places to go and have holidays. Egypt first, Turkey second,
Turkey,
then Thailand.
Okay.
So it's like
3 very different places.
People got used to that.
Turkey's on my bucket list. Bastish, old man, or Bastich. Ivan, is there a difference between Chinese and Russian type of communism? Your own personal thoughts being a Russian. So, okay, we want to discuss the differences between Russian and Chinese communism. Good heavens, that's a very serious question.
Do I look like a specialist on communism? I mean, like...
Well, you're Russian, you're communist, so of course, yeah, you must know everything about communism.
I feel
Comrade?
myself much more American rather than Russian in terms of values, So I'm sorry, I'm not competent to answer this. I don't know.
May I ask if you have a religion?
The Church of Britney Spears.
The Church of Britney
Yeah.
Spears. Okay. That's loosely Christian or Britney's version of Christianity?
It's all about hedonism and joy of life and saying, how we pray? We call, give me more, give me, you don't know, give me more.
So these conversations taken a
God.
drastic turn to the left. I'm sorry, everybody. Okay. So you don't have any comments about, you were brought up in a communist society.
Well, I think Russian culture has a lot of subsequences of being communist country, right?
Of course.
But I have never been communist. I have never been religious or stuff, so that's why I had to leave Russia.
But isn't part of communism banning religion, generally?
Oh, that's interesting conversations.
Oh no, they've got the Russian Orthodox Church.
Yeah, they've been destroying churches first during some period. Now, the Communist Party is an official part of this political power in Russia, and they're all very religious. So they do what they are told. If you want to be a politic in Russia, you have to be religious.
Oh, it's the same in America.
Oh, really?
You could not possibly be voted in to become the American president unless you were
The
a
difference
Christian.
is that researchers show that a lot of Americans are truly, sincerely religious. In Russia, people say, yeah, I'm religious. They have no clue about Bible. They don't go to church. It's just about, I don't know, posting to Instagram, the mom of 2 religious, like, what is it? I don't know.
I'm religious when it suits me. I'm not, but I'm just saying that would be what Russians say. Richard Evans, I'm the same. I tried learning a few words every day, but keep forgetting. Very hard language, Thai. It's not like if you have learned German, French, Portuguese, Italian, Spanish. They're all
Same
sort of
group of
part of
language, yeah.
the Latin languages.
Right.
That the other Latin languages are a bit easier to learn.
Right.
But in Thai, the words are different, the tones are different,
yeah.
the sentence construction is different. Having said all that, I find Thai people usually very accommodating and very patient when it comes to you trying to use your Thai.
Recently I live in a small local village, and there is we call him Grandpa, like Paul. He's selling boiled rice and fried chicken at the entrance to the village. So I was paying to him, sent into his Thai account. And when you want to check the name that you're sending the money to the right account, so I pronounced his name, and he was super duper excited from the way I pronounced his name. He became so happy, started to hug me. I'm like, it's okay, and he's like, no, you speak Thai so good. I'm like, but the thing is, I think he didn't know. For me, it was written in English. But he was so happy, I didn't want to disappoint.
That you tried.
Right.
Comment, this is from Richard Townsend again. For me, language learning is age-related as the older I get, the harder to learn or even keep up with my Thai. Look, that's true. When I was a young Australian, I learnt English, and that is a version. Australian is a version of English. That's another conversation. But I did learn French as well. But I can actually sort of order my food in French. That's about it. French people can't understand me. But I think unless you learn a few languages when you're young, that your brain isn't wired in such a way that it will learn languages. It's a certain wiring of the brain that needs to happen early on in your life.
That's exactly how the body works. Our cognitive functions, they fade away the older we get. So that's why it's so important to read and to stay active rather than that you're just gonna.
That gives me an excuse for being dim and stupid. Ian D, I learned Japanese just by living there, by watching TV and listening to radio and having Japanese friends over Western. It was hard but great. I dare say if I was living up in Udon or Ratchathani, and
if you get
I would
married
learn,
to a Thai
and I
person,
married a Thai, I would learn Thai much quicker, because there would be sort of an urgent need and an environment around me where I sort of could use Thai all the time. Here in a place like Phuket, where so many of the service industry speak okay English, you just tend not to use your Thai.
There is a question I want to address because we passed it, EN444444, okay? Ivan's thoughts on Qatar, human rights and LGBTQ. To me, Qatar, this is an airport where I get a connection flights when I fly to somewhere, so I don't know
Qatar is
much.
actually a country in the Middle East, but yes, they do have an airport and an airline. But he wants to know about your thoughts about Qatar, human rights and LGBTQ,
well,
the gay and lesbian alphabet.
Yeah, plus, you forgot plus. People are gonna cancel you for that.
Yes.
Even being a part of LGBT community, you will be like culture cancelled for not saying plus. So I think the situation must be pretty bad because I don't think it's legal to be gay in Qatar, but I need to check myself. I want to address a different story that 2 days ago in Russia, we had a new law which officially prohibits to say anything, even neutral, not even positive, about being gay, lesbian, pansexual, transgender, non-binary, child-free, and stuff. So it doesn't matter what country we're talking about. That's horrible.
Yeah, I think it was a law in Parliament that was given 100% support.
Absolutely.
In the Parliament, opposition, everybody voted for it. Basically against, I suppose, what you could call gay or lesbian
they call
propaganda.
It the propaganda, but it's not scientific. It's not possible to propagate your sexual preferences, right? If I will be watching tons of straight porn, trust me, I will not become straight. I mean, anyway, can we say that?
You just did, I think.
Because that's what they're talking about.
Okay, would you recommend taking a right-hand turn here? Would you recommend taking a Thai language course in Thailand? Some courses last for 12 months. This is from Durian. I actually tried to study Thai at a Thai language school and it didn't help me at all.
Really depends on the teacher, right?
It depends on the teacher, and it also depends how you learn languages. Some people learn their languages better in a sort of a environment where there's a group structure and they've got other people to sort of share their experience with.
Right.
Some people have private tutors, but oh no, I've tried everything. I just can't get it. Bart says, hello Ivan, are you completing your Masters in Psychology? If so, give a quick analysis about the person sitting next to you. Sorry, Tim. Thank you, Bart. So you have to psychoanalyze me.
Psychologists do not analyze friends, lovers, colleagues, because we have a lot of projections. So I know Tim for a while, I have a lot of projections, my impressions on him. So whatever I say, it's not going to be clean and clear. So it's not possible.
There you go. Got through that one. Tim should sing Thai songs tapping along on his piano.
Do you play piano?
I play piano.
Wow.
So you didn't know that, did you?
No.
Look, that's probably not going to happen. I struggle singing in any language, let alone Thai. Scott D, good luck with the roof repair, Frank. Oh, they're talking to each other in the chat. Okay, so look, I think we've sort of come to some sort of natural end on this conversation. So, yeah, we've decided that a lot of the people arriving from Russia at the moment are actually coming here because of what is happening in Russia at the moment, that they're escaping the situation, and that some of them, but not all of them, might be young Russian males who are just not wanting to be conscripted.
Yeah, and still, I didn't address that group of people who are still just coming for a couple of days for winter holidays.
Yeah, because it is going to get very cold in Russia.
Yeah.
Where you come from in the Urals, what's the name of the town?
Yekaterinburg.
Could you say that again?
These days it's called Yekaterinburg. It used to be known as Sverdlovsk before.
Okay. And what one time you told me, I can't remember what the number was, but I was horrified. How cold does it get in the middle of winter?
Depends, but sometimes it's minus 35, some winters minus 39, 40.
Minus 35.
Yeah, I don't know how it feels because I have not experienced that myself many years.
Once you get to zero, I'm out of there altogether.
Yeah, that's
let
what I
alone
say.
minus 35. If you didn't have clothes on, how long would you last in minus 35 degrees? I don't know why I asked that question, but there you go.
First of all, if you wouldn't have a clothes on, you have chance to be sexy or not to be sexy. Second, you will not last long.
Okay, that's a good answer. Great stream. Thanks, Ivan. Enjoy Phuket, says Shano Traveller. Do you have Ukrainian friends in Phuket? We sort of addressed that earlier. Do you want to hit it again?
Yes, I do. Ukrainian friends. I was bringing her a gift from my travels recently. We're all doing good.
We've got some good questions coming in at the very end, always happens. Richard, I might have missed it, but does Ivan do rentals versus buying?
So I like to be concentrated and organized because rentals is a full-time job. So my partner is doing rentals, and when I need to refer somebody, I send him to my partner, my boyfriend, and I do sales.
Okay, so you got the whole deal there. But we better do the right thing. If people want to contact you, Ivan, for real estate advice or indeed to purchase a property, how can they get in contact with you?
Most welcome. I think you can drop some links in the description later if somebody needs that.
Okay, so there will be a link in the description, but it'll probably take me an hour or so to get to that. So we'll put an email or excellent conversation, says James, thank you. Only just tuned in, but the guest is great, enjoying it. Steve Austin says, what? I'm not sure what he said for.
I love the way it goes one after another and you can create some reality which is not existing actually.
Ian says, Tim looks like he's having a gay time today.
Wow. I'm trying just not to be super gay, but
I get some fascinating
there's
conversations
no escape from
here.
this, you know.
The Thai Norse Times. Ivan, do you know anything about the conflicts going on in Ukraine before the war started? If so, can you tell me what you were thinking about your country at that time? Look, I mentioned earlier that we don't really want to get into the geopolitical discussions, whether anything's right or wrong. We just wanted to talk to Ivan today about his impressions as a young Russian male living in Thailand, and I think those conversations can be had in other forums. You're fine, ignore the shade, says Bill. Okay. So with all that, how many people did we get? We've got 254 people online at the moment. We've got 82 thumbs up. And thank you to the people that have kindly donated today. Very, very grateful. They're not paying you, they're paying me.
Oh.
For your support. But I'm paying for your breakfast, so stay around.
Kidding.
Great ice cream, Gay Time. Yes, there used to be an ice cream in Australia called the Gay Time.
Okay.
And there used to be a thing you could buy, they were fake cigarettes, and they were called fags.
Really?
But both, I think, have had their names changed because...
You have had much more funnier youth time compared to mine. Everything is called very directly to me.
Okay, get well soon, Tim says Hard Tulip. I'm fine. Nothing is wrong with me at all. Yes. Tim, my wife wanted to know when we were in Thailand, the Russian people didn't smile that much, if there's a reason. We actually spoke about that, Gio.
You have to break the ice, okay? They're gonna be brutal first, and if you break this ice, they're gonna be so open. Like, you gotta be shocked with this dichotomy, with this contrast between being super cold and close and being just giving your last t-shirt, you know? That's what happens, but you have to wait for it.
And Rick says, thanks guys, great show. Asian detective he's got a bit of a solution. He says, learn to read Thai. You'll find it easier to learn. A lot of people have said that, but I did.
Considering there is no gap between the words in Thai. It just goes in line.
I did study the grammar. I studied the squiggles, and I could sort of recite the Thai alphabet and all that. Didn't help me. As I said, I'm just stupid. I'm happy to admit
I gave up on Thai when I could not distinguish the difference between cry and cry, you know that topic, right? Bananas and dick. I couldn't spell it, so...
What?
Cry, one or another. Cry and cry means banana and a dick. I failed on that and I decided not for me.
The
You didn't know
Snives,
that.
I didn't know that. We need more Dina. This is Dina the cat. So I think the message we've learned today is that people would rather have Dina the cat than you.
I would also rather have cats than people, so we're on the same page.
So there is a link in the description, not at the moment, but after we finish the program, if you'd like to contact Ivan for real estate services, and as he mentioned, his partner does rentals as well. It is a bit of a hot market at the moment, and it's being cooked a lot by Russian people who are coming here and looking for property and a new way of life. And I suppose if there is a conflict in your country, no matter where you come from, they're coming to a place like Thailand where it's generally peaceful and stable, is something that you would want for your family as well. Hi Tim and Ivan, you can still buy a golden gay time. My wife is having one now. Okay, so thank you very much. Oh dear, thank you Tim. Might want to think of him as for a panel if you get more than one guy at a time. Actually, if I ever have a panel, like a panel of guests, I certainly would want to try and include some women as well. Yeah, Ivan is our very first co-host for our TNT live program on Saturdays. Next week we've got an ophthalmologist, and we'll be speaking about eye surgery and stuff, which will be quite a different conversation.
Let me know when you're gonna be having a guest about plastic surgery, because I need to operate my eyes. I mean, like, I need it.
What's wrong with your eyes?
Oh, you know, like they're falling down, so I need to make blepharoplasty.
Oh, blepharoplasty.
Yeah. that
Okay,
one.
I've got a name for you. Okay, thank you, Ivan, for coming in.
It was
Or
my
as I call
pleasure.
you, Ivan.
Absolutely.
And it's been great having him, and hopefully you've enjoyed the conversation. Hopefully you've enjoyed our TNT, and we do look forward to having another live program next Saturday with our guest, the ophthalmologist and doctor. And of course, we'll be back with our normal TNT next week. Before you go though, if you could do this for me, is just subscribe to the channel. So lean over and click that subscribe button and I'd be very grateful. So thank you very much for dropping in to see us this morning. We've both enjoyed our coffee here at Dean and DeLuca.
I still have some. Thank you, team, and thanks for everybody for joining.
I'm paying. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping in. What do I click here? That one?